Hey everybody. All right, I want to talk about a point here that is probably going to be very challenging for some. For others, maybe not. We'll see. But this is really important to understand. Okay? And let me explain first of all the primary reason why I'm sharing this point. Number one, primary point. I'm looking for people who want to stand up and make a difference in this world that would be best for everybody. Okay? That's primary point number one. Looking for people who want to stand up and make a difference that would be best for everybody. Number two, this is important for you to understand because it's a matter of you and your existence. Okay, it's an existential point. Okay. So, what is everybody here on earth doing with their life? I've gotten into some interesting discussions over the past few days on Facebook with people posting and commenting and going back and forth and sending me messages and so forth on my posts about God and money. Those have been the two primary ones that seem to have really generated a lot of comments and discussion. And what's interesting is the point about God, it really seems to trigger people. And specifically the point about belief in God. Specifically the point when I said you believe in God because you are avoiding responsibility. Now, look really carefully at what I said. I didn't say that you having a concept of God or in any way considering God as an important thing or anything like that, that in itself means you don't want to accept responsibility. I specifically said you believe in God because you don't want to accept responsibility. So let me clarify what I meant by that. What is a belief except a hope, except a wish? People have all kinds of ideas about what happens when you die. But the reality is you do not know directly. You can say that you feel it in your heart and you know it and all this stuff. And, belief is just the first step to faith, and faith is the first step to knowingness. But the reality is knowingness, knowing something, is not something that you have to walk through as a process. You literally either know something or you don't. Like, I know I'm holding the phone in my hand right now. I know that. I don't believe it. There's no belief. I didn't go from a process of believing it to knowing it. I know it. I'm holding it in my hand. It's common sense. I can see it directly. So when the issue of belief comes up in terms of God or what happens when you die, and it's not just about God, because many people have different beliefs about what happens when you die, but it all comes down to the idea that when we die, we go on to some other place. Now let's look at that for a moment, because does your body go to some other place? No. In fact, the one thing that you know for sure when someone else dies, which you may have observed, you can go to the funeral parlor or the morgue and see it, is that the one thing that doesn't leave is their body. Their body's still here. So the body remains here. Now you might say, well, but that's not who I am. I'm actually energy, and energy goes, and I become something else. Well, I'm here to tell you the truth about energy. So if you're not ready for this, you might want to turn the video off. The energy that you experience within you is being produced by your physical body. In fact, what we're doing is sucking energy, transforming energy, channeling energy from our physical body into feelings, into emotions, into imagination, into the energy behind our beliefs. And what we have done is, from birth, we have created out of the physical body this energy that has been directed into creating, through imagination, through a thought process, through an awareness process, an observation process. We've constructed a belief system for ourselves about what is real, about what is here, about who we are. But in fact, that energy system that we've created was literally just us mining energy from the physical substance. Just like, for example, you think about, where does the energy come from to heat your house or to run your electricity? It comes from the earth, right? We have to get oil out of the ground. We have to take that oil, we have to transmute it and direct it and channel it some way to produce energy. You have to break the chemical bonds. So in reality, when you're experiencing energy inside of you, it's chemical reactions occurring where you're taking the physical substance of your body and you're converting it into energy. Why is that important to understand? Because when we look at the concept of belief, as I was saying earlier, right in the middle of that word, belief, is the word lie, L-I-E. And as I was saying earlier, knowing something does not require belief. You either know it or you don't, just like I know I'm holding my phone. It doesn't require me to go through a process of I believe this and then I have faith and then I know something. You either know it or you don't. That's how knowing something works in physical reality. Now in your imagination, yes, it works differently, because you can believe something and think about something over and over and over and over until you start to believe it. And then the more you believe it, the more you start seeing the reflection of that belief because of your starting point and how you're participating in reality. You start seeing the reflection of that belief back to you, because the outer world is a manifestation of what's inside of you. So you start seeing evidence of your belief, which is actually you've hypnotized yourself to produce that result, because that's what we do as human beings. We create through what we do. But what we do is done from the starting point of what we believe and what we think. That's just that's what we've accepted ourselves as right now. So as you're going through this process of walking around in this world, and you are going through your experiences, looking at, for example, how something makes you feel, right? You then create a feeling towards something, and that goes in the positive or the negative category. And then you start creating beliefs around, I like this kind of person, or I don't like this kind of person, or I like these kind of movies but not those, or I like these kind of experiences but not those. I like this religion but not that religion. This one makes me feel a certain way, but that religion makes me feel a different way. So this one's good and that one's bad. And this one is kind of neutral. It doesn't make me feel any way. But by repeatedly thinking about something, we generate so much thought about it that it becomes a belief construct within us. And then within that belief construct, now we start acting in the world, and that starts reflecting back our beliefs to us because of how we're participating in the world. And then that further confirms, at least in terms of how we perceive the situation, it confirms to us that our beliefs are in fact real, when in fact it's simply just something we've convinced ourselves of that is now influencing how we interact with reality and therefore the feedback we get. So we haven't really tested the belief. We've actually just manifested an external manifestation of our belief through our participation, through what we do. For example, let's say you believe that the only way to exist in this world is to have money. Well, clearly that's not true, because you can look at a tree and see that a tree doesn't need money to exist, and neither does the sun. But as human beings, we believe that you need money in this world to exist. Where do we get that belief from? It didn't just come out of nowhere. It came from the fact that when we're born into this world, that seems to be the reality we're in. But that system that seems to dictate that reality to us was in fact created by other human beings based on their starting point of belief that they can't exist without money. Which at the end of the day, what it comes down to is someone being clever enough to realize that if he can get enough people to believe they can't exist without money, they'll do all the stuff that he needs done or she needs done to live comfortably if says he's the one who has the money. So I have the money, so if you don't have this money, you're going to die. So you need to work and create stuff, and I'll give you some money. And then within that, he's able to create wealth, and then the concept of debt is created so that people are further enslaved because there's never enough money to actually pay back the money you borrowed because you didn't have money in the first place, even though the whole thing was created out of thin air, out of imagination. And so the world becomes a system of money and debt enslavement. So when you're born into this world, that seems to be the reality of what it is. And so now that's the only thing you know. So now you start to accept it. You don't question it. You believe it. You reinforce it. You participate in it. You grow it. You like become a part of it. You take it further. You make it more extreme. And that's a direct reflection of what's going on the inside of all of us. Because in each one of us, we have this little money system. But it's not money, it's energy. We believe that we cannot exist without that energy that we feel within ourselves as feelings and emotions, and which is also thoughts. We believe that we can't exist without those. And so we create structures of belief, and they're automated. These systems that we create within ourselves are automated so that when someone comes into your presence, you automatically know whether you feel a certain way, positive or negative or whatever. But then you look at that and think, no, that person's making me feel a certain way. When in reality, all it is that person represents symbolically a certain picture or a certain experience that you have defined as you have associated with a certain type of energy that you're getting out of your physical body. As I said, the energy is coming from within you. You're sucking it out. And then you're associating it with that symbol that person represents. Maybe they're big and fat, or they're skinny, or they're, a certain skin color, for God's sake, right? You associate these feelings with these certain symbols, and then certain things make you feel good or don't. But in reality, you have defined it that way. And within that, we're constantly going around trying to place everybody in categories, and it's all done unconsciously, because from the very beginning, this was an unconscious process, because this was what we were doing as children in the womb, in the first 3 years of life, before we even understood or had a ability to understand, intellectually, let's say, with full awareness what we were doing. And so we are just automatically putting everything into categories in terms of how it makes us feel, and then manipulating what we see on the outside to give us certain feelings and to avoid certain feelings. But all we're really doing is just manipulating everything around us to generate energy within us that we call experience, that we call feeling, that we call emotion. Sometimes we call it love, sometimes we call it hate, sometimes we call it anger, sometimes we call it disgust. There's a whole wide array of vocabulary to describe these things. But at the end of the day, all we're doing is participating in this energy experience and using and abusing each other and the physical reality that we live in to get that energy experience, just like we're doing with the physical earth and non-renewable energy sources. So when we look at all of the context of all of that, and then we say, okay, let's look at something like the concept of God, of belief in God. Going back to that post that I made, you have to understand, my point wasn't to try to convince anyone or to imply that the concept of God is in itself anything wrong with that concept per se. It was more to look at and see who is willing to be honest with themselves when someone questions that belief and that feeling of defense or anger or frustration or whatever it is comes up, that instead of actually questioning that and saying, why is that feeling coming up? You would instead immediately say, you don't have a right to question my belief. But you have to question. If you were to try to convince me that I'm not holding this phone, I would just assume that you're on drugs. Because I know I am. There's nothing you could do to convince me that I'm not holding it. I wouldn't feel anything about that because I know. But it's when we have a belief that we've now imbued with all of this energy, and we've spent a lot of time and a lot of focus putting energy and thought and feeling into it. And then someone seemingly comes and threatens to take it away, and then suddenly it's like this protection mechanism comes up and says, no, you can't take my feeling, you can't take my belief. But what that tells you right there is that that belief is a construct of energy, which means it's not real. That doesn't mean that there's no such thing as God. It doesn't mean that the concept of God is invalid. All it means is that within you, with that word and the word belief, you have a belief that you've created, that you've constructed within yourself about it. That is the major problem. Because, and here's the secondary reason why I brought the point up. Because what I'm looking also is for people who say they want to make a difference in the world, say that they want to stand up, they want to do something, that they're a good person, they want to do what's right. And they may even talk about all the negative things that happen in the world and how those are bad and they need to stop. But when I really, and I had to walk through this process myself, but when I really question other people now, and I say, okay, you want to stand up, you want to do something in the world, right? Well, let's talk about the money system. Let's talk about all the real problems that exist, the education system, the food system, all these things. What I find is, and this doesn't apply to every single person, but sometimes what I find is that people will take the point to a certain point, but then they can't go further. They're like, well, but this person over here who's not me is suffering because it's their choice. And there's nothing I can do about that because everybody has freedom of choice and everyone can choose and God gave us free will, so I can't do anything about that. But in reality, what they have done is they have justified that person's situation. Now, when you look at that in the context of everything else I was just saying earlier, of how we're participating in this world, interacting with the world to get positive and avoid negative, don't you think at some level that you might be contributing to that person being in that situation? Imagine being in a situation in this world where you have very little education, you were abused as a child, you don't have any family that can support you financially, and you're in a country where it's a dictatorship and you can't even start a business if you wanted to. You're effectively screwed. And now imagine it's a contrast. You're someone who has a decent education. Your parents were very loving towards you. They provided you with things. They encouraged you. You have high self-esteem. And you live in a country where you're able to start a business as long as you can, basically have any level of competency and follow the laws and so forth. You're in a situation that other person physically is not in. And you can call it karma, but it's actually, that concept would be self-deception because you didn't create the circumstances of your birth. The circumstances of your birth were here before you got here, before you emerged into the world as a physical human being. Everything about you, your DNA was already here. Your physical environment was already here. There was nothing about who you think you are that wasn't here already the moment you were born. You could have easily have been born into that other situation and you would have no support. And imagine how that person would see and feel about the world knowing that there's people who would justify that person's situation when they know there's nothing they can do about their situation. There's nothing they can do. And for someone to justify that situation because of a belief in something like God, that is the problem. That is the question that I'm addressing, not the concept of God, just so you understand. It's when a concept, whether it's God or karma or anything or energy or whatever, any kind of concept is used to justify the way things are. That is the problem. Because in reality, this physical reality is all that we have. There's nothing else. And you can believe that when you die, your energy goes somewhere else. If you don't want that belief challenged, you should turn off the video right now. Okay, I'm going to give you a second. Because, yeah, see, someone just left. Because all the energy that you believe is you, is being generated by your physical human body. And all you're doing is sitting back and observing the process of converting your body into energy and playing with the energy. That's all that's happening. That is all that's happening. This physical reality is all that's here. Think about this. When you someone, I was talking to someone earlier and they were like, what about the whole, your body loses 28 grams or whatever? Energy has mass. So when your body's producing energy, there would be a certain mass to that energy. But when your body dies, it's no longer producing that energy. So that energy will stop. It doesn't go anywhere. It just stops. It's just not there anymore. It's not, the physical potential energy is still in your physical body. Just like when I turn off my phone, there's still potential energy in the battery, but it's not generating anything anymore. It's just sitting there. So when your body dies, now it's just physical matter with no directive principle. It's just sitting there, inert, and goes back into the earth. And it can be reused for something else. And so the fact is, all the beliefs that we have as human beings are really just a veil that are covering up the reality that all we are is physical. And within this, imagine for just a moment, what if this really is all you have? And life really is a gift, and it's unique, and you only get it once. And yet we spend the whole time thinking about being somewhere else. It's like, imagine if you're having sex with your boyfriend or girlfriend or wife or husband, and the whole time you're thinking about some movie you saw. You're not going to enjoy it. You're not going to make the most out of it. You're not going to really, you see what I'm trying to say? We're not making the most out of this physical reality because everybody's walking around with their own beliefs about what's going to happen afterwards and why they're here. And not just considering the simple common sense that if everybody here were considering that we're here to treat each other as equals, to give to each other what we would like to receive, really, to do what is best for everybody. Imagine what this planet could be. Imagine what this earth could be. And if you're able to take the concept of God and use that within you to align yourself with what is best for all, and to not allow any limit within yourself as to what is possible, and to do everything that you possibly can and push yourself even beyond what you believe is possible, then there's nothing wrong with a belief in God, is there? In principle. It's not God that's the problem. It's belief. It's not knowing something. It's allowing yourself to not know and yet to act as if you do. To say, well, I'm not going to do what's best for all here because when I die, that's when things are really going to start. And this is just a test. It's just a test of my faith, of whether I believe that something exists after this or not. If anything, the test that's here on this earth is what you would do in a situation like this, where there's lots of people suffering, and where by you even existing, it causes other people to suffer because you have to participate in a system that causes suffering. And the test would be, what would you do? What would you do about it? Would you just say, well, that's just the way things are? Or would you really stand up and say, you know what? We have to make a difference here. We have to do something, because when you get to the end of your life and you face God, do you think that God is going to just absolve you of everything and say, I forgive you? Would you deserve it? If you didn't stand up while children are abused on a daily basis? Or would God say, I gave you this unique time, this precious time, to become a creator, a fully responsible creator, just like me. And you used me as an excuse. And you said I was going to fix it for you. And what if when you get to the end of your life and you face your creator, you know what you really face? This world. Because this world is your creator. And as soon as you die, you go right back here and you look this world right face on, head on. And you have to look at the creation that you've just created, because that creation is going to recreate you. But you're not going to remember anything. You're going to be like a brand new baby, and you're going to be programmed by this world. And because you participated in it and you strengthened it and you grew this system that is not honoring and valuing all life, you're going to face an even more extreme set of circumstances. It's going to be harder. So why not face it now in this moment and look at how, as a creator, you and I are participating in the creation of an illusion within ourselves, believing that who we are is an experience of energy and feeling and emotion, when in reality, what we are is just skeletons with flesh and blood and muscle and other tissues. And we're here with a bunch of other walking skeletons with a bunch of blood and trees and the sun and the earth and dust. And we have the opportunity to really look at what's best for all, to find a way to use everything that's here as what it really is, as our equality and our oneness. Because within the physical substance, we're all equal. And we're all one. You're not superior to a tree just because you can do more. Because if you think you are, the tree will have the last laugh after you die, because it will use you for food. The tree won't be laughing because the tree's not spiteful like a human being. And if you believe, well, no, I'm going to be gone in some other realm with energy, what do you think that's going to be like? You don't think it's just going to be another version of something like this? I mean, how great is your imagination, really? But I think what you will find, which is what I found, when you really start digging into your beliefs, all the beliefs there are just because of fear. Because you fear losing something. But it's that fear that causes us to create belief constructs, which create ourselves as an illusion of belief and energy, which then creates something that isn't real. Which means when we die, we are going to lose that because it wasn't real in the first place. We never really got to know who we are here physically in this reality. We never got to really understand what we were, and we wasted the opportunity that we had to make a difference, a measurable difference. So that when you do have to come back here, if we get that chance, you're greeted by a reality that's more benevolent than when you got here. It's not going to happen on its own, and you can't put that responsibility on something else. Because if you think about it, putting that responsibility on someone else is kind of like making them your slave in a way. You're saying, I don't want to take responsibility for my mess. I want someone else to clean it up. But that's not how reality works. We created the mess. Only we can clean it up because only we know how we created it. That doesn't mean it's going to be easy, and it's not going to take time, because it is, and it will be difficult. But we have to do this. Even pleasure, well, that's another topic. Even pleasure and pain are still within the context of energy. The whole reality we live in is constructed as a system based on a starting point of seeking stimulation and seeking pleasure or pain or avoiding pain. That in itself is still a construct. That's not real life. We have no idea what real life is. We haven't even taken responsibility for the system that we have to make it one that's best. Only then could we figure out, okay, now why the fuck do we have to live in a programmed system at all? We're not even close to that yet. So I would suggest to not look at it in terms of fear or bliss. I would rather look at it as, even if I have to walk through all my fears, is what I'm doing best for everyone. And that's all that matters. Even if I don't get any experience out of it. That's for you to decide. That's for you individually to decide. But at the end of the day, each of us individually has to live with the consequence of what we chose. And because what we choose will determine what we exist as and what will happen to us. in the context of eternity. That's really what it comes down to. So what's the truth of energy? The truth of energy is energy has a beginning and an end. It's not like they told you in school where energy can't be created or destroyed. It's not true. Energy was created. It was created out of the physical substance that we are. And we have unfortunately put our faith in a creation of something that can't last. What can be the proposals to benefit the whole after this? Let me give you some proposals. Step 1, you need to go look something up called Creation's Journey to Life. It's a blog. You can probably find it if you Google it. Creation's Journey to Life. And another one called Heaven's Journey to Life. And start reading both of those blogs. If you go into those blogs and click on the timeline, you'll find all the posts from day 1. Read every single post starting with day 1, one day at a time on each blog. So take both blogs, do day 1 on both, read it out loud. And visit equafe.com, EQAFE.com. And take a look at that stuff. I don't benefit personally from either of those things. I do have something that I will benefit from, but I'll let you take a look at those things first. And if you find them difficult and you need support with that in terms of processing that information, then come ask me about it, about how I can support you with that. But I'm not here to interfere with your process. I'm just here to support you if that's the process you want to walk. The process that I'm walking, that we're all in fact walking, is just a matter of whether we do it with awareness. The process of deconstructing who we have come to believe we are as energy, and to walk ourselves back to the reality that we are just here physically, and to face what we have created of this physical universe out of our spitefulness and our abuse of it to create something that's not real, which is the whole reason why we're all fighting and have all this conflict, is because of how this illusion that we've created. All of the conflicts, all the problems. You're not here to create what you want. That is the result of being born into a world where you don't already have everything you want. It's still within the context of the system as it is. It's not challenging anything. You're not on the leading fucking edge of thought if you think you're here to create your bliss. Your bliss should be a basic fucking state of your existence automatically, without even lifting a finger. But we've created now a consequence that causes pain and suffering. We have to walk ourselves back. Don't seek pleasure. Don't seek the light. Do you ever notice when you look into a light, it blinds you? We're all blinding ourselves with this energy that we're thinking and feeling, and it's not real. That's what's not going to exist anymore. Just use common sense. The physical earth will still be here. It won't be in a state that's very pretty the longer we do this. But that's what this whole process is about, is to be aware of what we're actually doing, to stop, to walk it back and start over. Right? Whether that's for you or not, at this point, I can't say. That's up to you. But that's what I'm here to support myself with and to support others with as best I possibly can. Right? So that's the truth about energy. And I'll see you next time.